Okay, let's go to identifying the causes of performance problems. So, identifying the causes of performance problems may sound like an easy task, but it is often quite challenging. Now, performance can be the result of many factors. We're already informed of that, or we already know that performance can be the result of many factors, some of which are beyond the worker's control. So, in most work situations, though, supervisors tend to blame the workers. Mamagid na. And when they observe poor performance, mo na ila i-blame ang worker for this particular poor performance. Whereas the workers tend to blame external factors. Now, this tendency is what we call the actor-observer bias. So, example, in a baseball team, no? This best provide the analogy of actor-observer bias. So for example, a team or when a team is losing, now the players or the worker point to external causes such as injuries, a tough road schedule, or a bad weather as the reason no nganong losing ang usa ka team, while the manager or the supervisor blames the players, no, the kadtong mga employee for sloppy execution in the field. And of course, the team's owner or the sports writer, mon as ang top management or the higher observers, hold the manager responsible for the team's poor performance. So mo na gitawag og actor observer bias. Kanang murag pointing out, no, trying to have this particular thing or person to blame it with kung unsay problema sa performance. It is important that managers determine the cause of performance deficiency accurately for three reasons. The first one is determination of causes can influence how performance is evaluated. Of course, okay, if you are able to determine the reasons, determine the cause of the problem accurately, now you can actually evaluate the situation very well. For example, a manager is likely to evaluate an episode of poor performance very differently if he thinks it was due to low effort than if he thinks it was due to poor materials. Diba? Lahi man kung ang manager, moingon ang manager nga, there is a poor performance because there is low effort on the part of the employee or low or poor materials. Kay poor materials has kung mo ni rason nga there is poor performance, that's beyond the employees control. Kaya di man siya ang provide sa performance. Sa materials. So it would be difficult now if difficult for a manager to evaluate kung ang iya pagtuo nga there is a poor performance because of less effort by the employee. So, muna first. Second is, causal determination can be an unspoken and underlying source of conflict between supervisors and their workers. Supervisors often act on what they believe are causes of the performance problems. This is only rational, but when the supervisor's perception significantly differs from the workers, the difference can cause tension. So if both the the worker and the manager has a different perspective, so makakos gadyo na og tension. And that is the second. Now, causal determination can be underlying source of conflict. So, makakos og tension kay lahi man ang perception sa worker, lahi po ang perception sa supervisor. And the third one is the cause affects the type of remedy selected. What is thought to be the cause of a performance problem determines what is to be done about it. Say, for example, naakaroy, naingon ang imong worker nga mo-absent ko ma'am tungod kay napiang ko. Anong napiang man ka? What is the so the cause of the absent or kanang absenteeism ni is napiang siya kay tungod na slide siya sa kilid sa inyong company kay kanabang sige kauwan gilumutan na dangog na siya tungod kay buslot ang gutter sa imong kana nga part sa imong organization. So iyo kakaron nga ang problema is ang pagka-absenteeism sa imong worker. So mo na imong gitambalan. So karon na okay na ang imong employee ning sud na nahidamag na po during rainy season tungod kay mo na iya agianan na wa man na lagi nakita as the cause of the problem sa absenteeism sa imong employee. So, sige kag treat sa absenteeism sa imong employee when in fact, the real cause is ang kaning slimy nga floor nga kanunay sad siya kay because danghag siguro siya or walay laing agianan so mo pirmi siya ma-slide every rainy season. So, manay ato itawag nga supervisor's perception significantly differs from the workers. Now, the difference can the cause affects the type of remedy selected. So, wrong remedy on the wrong cause identified by the supervisor. Kaya wa man nila na-identify ang real cause of the problem. Okay? And number 2 is situational factors. This include a wide array of organizational characteristics that can be or that can positively or negatively influence performance. So here are some examples of situational factors. A brief list of some situational factors to consider that may be the cause of performance problems. This is a starting point. Now, the supervisor and worker or team members can go over a list together to isolate the causes of any performance difficulties. Now, this action makes sense in that it is addressing an underlying problem or problems that need resolving to allow the employee to perform well in the future. So what I have given in the example, now you treat the gutter, not the person, because actually the real reason why he is always absent during rainy days is that he always slipped on the wet floor due to the kanang nag-agas diha nga tubig from the gutter. So, mana siya, no? Okay, so after the supervisor and worker have discussed and agreed on the cause of the performance problem, the next step is to take action to control them. So depending on whether the cause of performance problem is related to ability, effort, or situational characteristics, very different tactics are called for. Here are some examples to review. So, for ability, has the worker ever been able to perform adequately? So, possible remedies is to train, transfer, redesign job, or terminate. So, these are some examples now. Okay, so let's go to effective performance appraisal. For effective performance appraisal requires 2 strategies. The first one is developing an action plan and empowering workers and directing communications at performance. I think I have given an overview on this. So The first one, developing an action plan and empowering workers. This is aimed to empower workers to improve their performance. Now, um, as manager, you need to develop plan on how to empower your workers, especially if they have a negative result on evaluation. As in a sports team, now the supervisor as coach assists the workers in interpreting and reacting to the work situation. The rule is not necessarily one of mentor, friend, or counselor. Rather, it is that of being an enabler. So the role of the supervisor is not to coach, mentor, or friend, or to counsel, but to enable the empowerment of the worker. The supervisor as coach works to ensure that the necessary resources are available to workers and help employees identify an action plan to solve performance problem. So, na siya. For directing communications at performance, communications between supervisor and worker is critical now to effective performance management. I think I also have mentioned this in TQM yata. How do you communicate the changes in an organization? Exactly what is communicated and how it is communicated can determine whether performance improves or declines. Kay basin o dili maayo ang imong pagka-communicate and there is now kana bitaw kanang the feeling nga di sila mosunod nimo. Performance discussion can be difficult for managers, and workers may disagree that there is a performance issue and become emotional. For example, say that a manager tells an employee that her late arrivals and long lunches are affecting the performance of the office. Instead of understanding and promising to improve, the employee denies that there is a problem, claims that the manager is unfairly focusing on her small errors, and begins yelling at the manager. Handling this type of situation professionally is the key competency to being an effective manager. But unfortunately, these types of situation will occur during your management career. So naagid na siya. How well do you direct communications, especially if the thing that you're going to communicate is sort of negative. That is really very hard on the part of the manager. Okay? So, of course, you will not become a manager if you lack the competency, as what I have mentioned before. Okay, so we are done actually. So, as a sort of summary, why am I putting conclusions? Summary na actually, no conclusions. So performance appraisals are critical to the ongoing success of an organization, and that is given. Understanding the performance appraisal and process will help you as future managers and employees work toward a more successful communication and trust. Now, which, of course, this communication and trust will lead to positive performance outcomes. Measuring performance accurately is not only good practice but also avoids legal pitfalls and decrease in morale. So I have mentioned it a while ago. You need to be careful now with the um, lawsuits that might happen if you are not measuring the performance accurately and you are measuring the performance on the basis of biases. So managing the performance of the organization takes all constituents together working. Dili pwedeng ikaw ra, siya ra, or ang manager ra. It should constitute everyone working together for, of course, for the success of the organization. That is the main point here actually. Okay, and that's it. I will be uploading this and Help yourself. Bye.